Hello, I am Daniel Morgan, a physician specializing in urological health and male wellness across all stages of life. Many of you know me here on the channel as Dr. Daniel Morgan because I have spent years calmly and directly explaining what rarely gets discussed in a standard consultation. The truth about size, circulation, and the daily habits that can either support or sabotage your intimate health. Today, we are going to dig into a topic that generates enormous curiosity. Bicarbonate, that white powder sitting in your kitchen cabinet, the one your grandfather used for everything from heartburn to cleaning. Now it is showing up in viral videos promising miracles for your size and potency. And my goal is simple. By the end of this video, when you hear the phrase, "Use bicarbonate this way and see what happens to your size," you will be able to smile with real peace of mind because you will know exactly what is true, what is a myth, and how to use it responsibly to protect your body instead of harming it. For years, a persistent idea has circulated in online spaces and locker room conversations. The idea that there is a right trick, a perfect cocktail, some mysterious homemade recipe capable of changing your size, as if the human body were made of clay you could simply mold. You hear talk of baths, massages, mixtures with lemon, vinegar, baking soda, as if intimate tissue were nothing more than a balloon waiting to be inflated. But that is not how the male body works, and I say that not to dismiss your curiosity but to respect your intelligence. Size is determined by genetics, hormonal environment, and the developmental windows of early life. It is not determined by what you apply at 50 or the powder you dissolve in water at 60. What can change, and change significantly, is the quality of blood flow into that tissue, the firmness and reliability of your erections, your physical confidence, and your overall vitality. And this is precisely where lifestyle habits, including certain responsible uses of baking soda, can play an indirect role, though never in the exaggerated way these videos sell you. I want to begin with complete clinical honesty. There is no credible scientific evidence that baking soda alone permanently increases size. Not a cream, not a bath, not a morning drink. No formula involving baking soda structurally changes intimate tissue. What does exist is a dangerous mix of aggressive marketing, genuine desperation, and outright misinformation, all designed to exploit a vulnerability that too many men carry in silence. Why does this narrative spread so effectively? Because size remains a subject loaded with shame, comparison, and cultural pressure. Many men believe they fall below average, when in reality they sit well within the normal range. And when someone appears on your screen promising more size with a cheap, accessible ingredient like baking soda, the temptation to believe is real and understandable. My role today is to help you reclaim clarity and control, not to offer you yet another shortcut. Before we discuss how baking soda might be used at all, you need to understand what it actually is. Sodium bicarbonate is a well-known alkaline salt with a long history in both cooking and medicine. In the kitchen, it works as a leavening agent because it releases carbon dioxide gas, which causes dough to rise. In a medical context, it has been used as an antacid to temporarily neutralize excess gastric acid. In hospitals, it has been administered intravenously under strict supervision to correct very specific pH imbalances in the blood. In sports science, it has been studied as a buffering agent that helps neutralize some of the lactic acid produced during high-intensity effort, which can briefly delay muscle fatigue. In other words, baking soda is not magic. It is a specific chemical compound with defined uses, measurable benefits in certain narrow contexts, and very real risks when misused or overconsumed. So what does any of this have to do with your intimate health and size? Here is where it gets genuinely interesting from a physiological standpoint. Male intimate response depends primarily on three pillars: blood vessel health and circulation, nerve function, and hormonal balance. Everything that improves the integrity of your arteries, lowers chronic inflammation, stabilizes your blood pressure, and supports your metabolic health creates the conditions for firmer, more reliable erections and better filling of the tissue you already have. The tissue does not grow, but it expresses itself more fully. Conversely, everything that damages circulation, excess sodium intake, uncontrolled hypertension, a sedentary lifestyle, obesity, tobacco use, all of it reduces that filling capacity and diminishes intimate function. Now here is the critical piece about baking soda. Used carelessly or in excess, it delivers a significant sodium load, places added strain on the kidneys and cardiovascular system, and can actually elevate blood pressure. In other words, if you misuse it chasing size, you may be actively working against the circulatory health that intimate function depends on. You would be sabotaging yourself. Let me illustrate this with a composite case that reflects what I have seen in practice. Imagine a man, 65 years old, who we will call Ernest. He watches a video claiming that if he takes a tablespoon of baking soda in water every morning for a month, his size will increase and his performance will return to what it was at 30. He does not investigate further. He does not ask questions. He simply follows the recipe. A full tablespoon every single morning. Within a few weeks, he notices digestive discomfort, bloating, occasional nausea. He endures it because he believes it is part of the process. Then he notices something more concerning. His abdomen feels more distended. His blood pressure readings begin to creep upward. His sleep becomes fragmented. And his intimate function, rather than improving, grows more inconsistent. What happened? He did not gain a single centimeter. What he did gain was a disrupted internal balance, excess sodium, added cardiovascular strain, and greater general discomfort. His body was sending clear signals, but he kept chasing a result that science never promised. Now contrast that with a different kind of man. Let us call him Louis, 58 years old. He also hears about baking soda online, but he decides to use it with his head instead of with hope alone. He does not reach for it as a size trick. He occasionally uses it in cooking to reduce the acidity of certain dishes. He keeps oral intake within moderate, sensible limits. And most importantly, he redirects his energy toward the things that genuinely support his circulatory health. Daily walking, managing his weight, cutting back on ultra-processed foods, addressing the chronic stress he has carried for years, rebuilding honest communication with his partner about what intimacy looks like in his 50s. Louis might also try a warm, diluted baking soda bath to relieve mild skin irritation in the groin area after long days in summer heat. He does not apply it directly and aggressively to sensitive tissue. He does not believe for a moment that it will reshape anything. He uses it as a gentle aid to skin comfort, nothing more and nothing less. That is baking soda in its appropriate place. A supporting tool, not the protagonist. Let us now walk through the most common ways men attempt to use baking soda in relation to intimate health and what the evidence actually supports. The first application is sitz baths. Warm water with a small amount of baking soda dissolved in it, used to relieve superficial skin irritation, chafing, or mild discomfort in the external genital region. For men who experience intense sweating or have particularly sensitive skin, this approach can help neutralize odor and reduce the sensation of itching or mild inflammation. However, I want to be absolutely clear. These baths act on the surface of the skin. They do not penetrate deep tissue. They do not alter blood vessels or vascular structures. They do not enlarge anything. What they can do is improve physical comfort. And when a man feels cleaner, more comfortable, and less distracted by surface irritation, his confidence naturally improves. And when confidence rises, the entire experience of intimacy changes. That is a real and meaningful benefit, even if it has nothing to do with centimeters. The second application is oral consumption. This is where I urge the most caution. Small, well-measured amounts of baking soda taken occasionally can relieve episodic gastric acid discomfort. That is a legitimate, if modest, use, but converting it into a daily ritual aimed at boosting size or potency is a clinical mistake. Every teaspoon you consume contributes sodium to your system. For a mature man who may already have a tendency toward elevated blood pressure, fluid retention, or reduced kidney filtration, this extra sodium can tip the balance in the wrong direction. Higher pressure, greater arterial stiffness, reduced blood flow to the very tissue you are trying to support. Using baking soda as though it were a male tonic fundamentally misunderstands its chemistry and its role in the body. Now I want to shift our angle on this topic entirely, because I think the most useful thing I can offer you is a more honest framework for what men are actually seeking when they look up baking soda and size. When a man says he wants to be larger, what he often means beneath that is that he wants to feel more confident, more capable, more present during intimacy. He wants fewer moments of doubt, less fear of failure, greater stability. He is not simply seeking additional centimeters. He is seeking a different experience of himself. And this is where everything changes. Because if your circulation is functioning well, your blood pressure is reasonably managed, your blood sugar is stable, and your nervous system is not chronically overwhelmed by stress. Your intimate tissue fills more completely and sustains firmness more reliably. Your body expresses what it already has at its full potential. That is functional size. That is the version of yourself that is available when the system runs cleanly. This is also why I push back firmly against the idea of alkalizing your body with spoonfuls of baking soda as a general health strategy. Your blood pH is maintained within an extraordinarily narrow range by your lungs, your kidneys, and a series of internal buffering systems that have evolved over millennia. You do not need to fix your pH with kitchen powder. What you mostly need is better sleep, more consistent movement, less salt and processed sugar, no tobacco, adequate hydration, effective stress management, and where appropriate, proper guidance from a qualified clinician who can order the right tests and discuss evidence-based treatment options. Those are the real drivers of what I call functional size, the capacity for what you already have to show up fully. Here is how to use baking soda responsibly without turning it into a quiet enemy of your cardiovascular system. First, respect what it is. It is not a supplement. It is not a tonic. It is a chemical with real physiological effects. If you use it as an antacid, do so occasionally and within the dosages indicated on the product, not improvising large doses from a video you watched at midnight. If you have hypertension, kidney disease, heart failure, or take specific medications, consult your physician before any regular oral use. If you choose to use it on the skin, dilute it properly in water, keep it away from the most sensitive mucous membrane tissue, and avoid aggressive rubbing. Think of gentle skin comfort, not reshaping therapy. And if you notice irritation, persistent redness, or any worsening discomfort, stop immediately. I want to share one more clinical experience with you. A patient, 62 years old, whom I will call Martin, came to my office completely convinced that his central problem was size. He had worked through a long list of attempted remedies, exercises, topical mixtures, and homemade protocols involving baking soda, lemon, and other substances that had left his skin visibly irritated and inflamed. When I sat down with him and asked what he was most afraid of, he did not describe centimeters. He described fear of failure in front of his partner, a specific night that had gone poorly, an erection that had not cooperated, and the shame that had quietly taken up residence in him since then. When we explored his health markers, we found elevated blood pressure, a completely sedentary lifestyle, severely disrupted sleep, and stress levels that had been unmanaged for years. His size was never the issue. His circulatory system needed attention, and his mind needed relief from the pressure he had placed on himself. We stopped the baking soda experiments entirely. We built a structured walking routine. We adjusted his blood pressure medication in consultation with his cardiologist. We worked on sleep hygiene. And critically, we opened a conversation about how he and his partner could communicate more openly about intimacy and the natural changes that come with age. Several months later, his size had not changed at all, but his erections were significantly firmer and more consistent, and the quality of his intimate life had improved considerably. More than that, his confidence had shifted. He no longer walked into intimate moments carrying a suitcase of dread. That transformation had nothing to do with a powder. It had everything to do with how he took care of his body and his relationship. That is the core lesson I want you to carry with you today. Your real size is not in the baking soda. It is in your arteries. It is in your habits. It is in your confidence and your willingness to address your health honestly rather than chase shortcuts. And I want to add one more layer that men often do not talk about at all: the role of the partner and open communication. Many men begin to notice the natural changes that come with age. Erections that require more time and stimulation to develop. Slower recovery between experiences. Responses that are less automatic than they were at 30. And rather than address this openly with the person closest to them, they retreat inward, search for answers online in the middle of the night, and expose themselves to advice that ranges from useless to genuinely harmful. Applying concentrated baking soda formulas directly to sensitive skin can dry out tissue, disrupt the skin's natural microbiome, and create irritation and hypersensitivity. Imagine beginning a search for better performance and arriving instead at a condition where the pressure of clothing is uncomfortable. That is not progress. That is a self-inflicted setback. Sometimes the most powerful thing a man can do for his intimate health is to say to his partner, "I am noticing some changes. I want to take better care of myself. I would like us to figure this out together." Those words carry more healing potential than any recipe ever could. It is also worth stating clearly that vitality and maturity does not come from any single product. It comes from a well-coordinated set of inputs. Your vascular health benefits from a diet rich in vegetables, colorful fruits, healthy fats like olive oil and nuts, high-quality proteins, and significantly reduced ultra-processed food intake. Your hormonal balance is best sustained through consistent restorative sleep, effective stress management, and moderate alcohol consumption at most. Your nervous system and intimate responsiveness are supported by emotional connection, curiosity, warmth, and genuine engagement with your partner. Baking soda does not replace any of these inputs. No powder does. But when you take deliberate responsibility for your own well-being, those elements begin to align. And what you encounter in the mirror and in the bedroom is not just a different number of centimeters. It is presence. It is steadiness. It is the confidence of a man who knows he is taking care of himself properly. At this point, you may be wondering, so where does that leave baking soda? Should I throw it out entirely? My answer is pragmatic. Keep it in the kitchen where it earns its place. Use it occasionally to neutralize mild gastric acidity if your health status permits it and you follow reasonable dosing. Use it in gentle, diluted skin baths when there is superficial irritation that warrants some relief. But stop assigning it a role it was never designed to fill. Stop burdening it with the expectation of structural change. It cannot deliver that, and asking it to will only lead you away from the strategies that actually work. Walk for 30 minutes a day. Have your blood pressure checked regularly. Monitor your glucose and maintain a healthy weight. If you smoke, stopping is one of the single most powerful things you can do for intimate function. Stay well hydrated, and if something concerns you, if your erections have changed significantly, if your energy is depleted, if your interest in intimacy has dropped, speak to a urologist or physician who specializes in men's health. There are real, evidence-based assessments and treatments available. You do not have to guess. You do not have to experiment on yourself with internet recipes. I want to close this conversation with a direct and unambiguous statement, because I think clarity is the most respectful thing I can offer you. Your real size is not determined by a powder. It is expressed through your circulation, built by your daily habits, and amplified by your confidence. It is never too late to reclaim vitality, to strengthen your intimate response, and to feel genuinely at home in your body again. But the path forward does not run through miraculous shortcuts. It runs through consistent, conscious, and honest decisions made in respect of your body and its actual needs. If you decide today to set aside empty promises and start building your health from the foundation up, you have already made a larger move than anything a video on baking soda could ever deliver. If this conversation shifted something for you, if it cleared some fog or restored a sense of calm about your own body, then I want to encourage you to share it with someone who might need to hear it too. A friend who has fallen down the rabbit hole of miracle recipes. A man in your life who carries this kind of insecurity in silence. Bringing him a calm and honest explanation might be the most useful thing you do for him this week. And if you want to keep learning, keep going deeper, and keep taking care of your intimate health with clear, grounded, evidence-based information, subscribe and stay with me. In the conversations ahead, we will continue to tackle the topics that matter most with the directness and respect that every man deserves. I am Dr. Daniel Morgan. See you in the next one.